And I would like to invite our last for today, but really fascinating from my point of view, speaker Eiso, who he actually is directly from the airport, where he spent 3 hours on the borders trying to get his airport visa. Eiso is a serial entrepreneur, what we call. He is Dutch. He will introduce himself, and he is amazing, I think, because he has built the new LinkedIn, but for a younger audience. And I let him talk.
So thank you very much. So I'm neither amazing or successful, and neither is our company yet. So let me start by saying a little bit about that. I'll tell you a little bit about who I am. My personal background is that about 10 years ago, out of my bedroom, I built a small e-commerce platform and took photos of 15,000 pieces of art, which then actually all got sold online relatively quickly. I've always loved programming. I'm a computer geek, but I studied business and finance because that's the stuff I didn't know anything about. And after high school, I ended up in Silicon Valley for a little over a year, doing the first company that raised money for charities through Twitter. And after that, I ended up not doing the route of not going to university. I chose, instead of taking venture capital for this company, to go do a bachelor's degree in Spain, and actually at IE. And the reason why Spain was because it had blue skies and sun. Had nothing to do with it being the greatest place to be, but I actually just loved it from a life quality point of view. So let me tell you a little bit first about what we do and what TYBA does. And I read this title right before I got onto my flight because I hadn't seen it yet, and I realized how much has changed over the last few years of our company. Because neither today are we a professional social network, and we have raised, I think, close to about 5 million euros by now as well. So actually it's a little bit outdated, but it's a very, very good starting point to tell you guys a little bit about how I personally look at starting a startup in Madrid, Spain, which is neither a big startup hub like a London or Berlin, or as I'm assuming Minsk isn't yet either. I want to share maybe a little bit of this experience with you guys, because maybe some of the parallels, what it was like for us to start a company in Madrid, where actually there was no startup events or no really startup scene when we started, you guys might be able to draw to actually building successful companies here. So TYBA today works with over 800 venture-backed tech startups in 14 countries across Western Europe. And our mission is to fix recruitment. We are incredibly frustrated by how tough it is for companies to find good talent, and how tough it often is for many of you to find a job that you're really excited about. So for these 800 venture-backed companies, there are big names like Uber or Dropbox in there, but there's many smaller ones that no one knows. We actually help them find both their software engineers, and we help them find their business people, operations, sales, and marketing. So that makes us sound like a recruitment company. But we're a recruitment company of 30 people that has no recruiters working for it. Actually, we're primarily engineers. And that has to do with the fact of how we saw the problem of recruitment. We saw it as, on one side, we have people who want something. I want a job, or I want to find someone that wants to work for me. On the other side, you have people who actually want to fill that demand, just like any other marketplace. And we were quite naive and crazy, and we said, guys, can't we just match them up? I mean, we're programmers, we're engineers. Can't we just actually take data of what people want and data of who they are, their work history, professional experience, and the search parameters of companies, what they're looking for, and try to match them together? Turns out that was a lot more difficult than we thought. The first 2 years, we self-funded this company. We were a few engineers, some business people, part-time designer, literally worked next to studying out of a tiny office. We self-funded it. And then after 2 years, we actually realized that we were onto something. We had some technology, but besides the technology, we had built up a massive amount of expertise and an incredibly strong core team. We had some of the best engineers in Europe working with us, one of the best designers still actually worldwide working with us. We had an amazing marketing person, a co-founder who was incredibly good at sales. And so what we decided to do was say, let's go out and raise some money. And we faced this situation, which maybe is similar here in Minsk, is that the local investment climate isn't really that booming or active. Or maybe if it is, it's really not getting you the valuations that you see companies in London get. So we decided to go on a little bit of a tour and speak with investors in Scandinavia, in Germany, in the UK. And this is one of the main lessons that we learned in the early stage of our company in relation to raising money. This was the first $1 million that we raised, is that you're not bound to the country or the barriers you're in. We ended up closing a deal with a Danish venture capital fund called Sunstone Capital. They are in companies like Prezi in Budapest or Neo4j and actually around the corner in Copenhagen, but actually all over Europe, but they'd never done a deal in Spain. And for foreign investors to come and do a deal in a country they don't know is a little bit scary. Okay, granted, we are inside Europe, makes it a little bit easier. But investors today are looking to get an edge over each other. They're looking to find that next big company. And they know that if that company is in London, there's another 10, 20 VCs looking at them. But if that company is at the time in Madrid, Spain, no one was looking there yet. So we were able to raise a round of $1 million, which was pure seed investment. It was there for us to continue our R&D and to see what more we could actually work towards actually achieving our mission of fixing recruitment. So this ended up being a really good match, and so we started building our company. And still at this stage, I didn't consider ourselves successful. Raising money has absolutely nothing to do with success. It means that there's someone out there crazy enough to give you a chance and has enough capital and risk willingness to let you try something out. So you're not successful. You've beat out a bunch of other guys who are also trying to ask for their money, but you actually haven't achieved anything yet that has real proper success. Success comes from users who are addicted to your app coming back every single day, or customers that are paying for something, and if you would go away, they would be incredibly upset. So we grew. Today we're 30 people. We're actually 30 people from 15 nationalities. So one of the things that's quite unique about our company is that we've always followed the motto of we look for the best talent worldwide, and whoever is the best, we'll figure out a way to get them to Spain. So we have people from Latin America, United States, all over Europe, Ukraine, Russia. We're right now actually by chance interviewing a really good senior software engineer from Minsk. And if he passes the interviews, we would also tell him, come move to Madrid and we help with actually everything. So part of my pitch here today is not to steal the best talent that is here in Minsk, because I think every local ecosystem can benefit from retaining its own talent. But if you have any desire to leave, you're a great engineer, we are around. So where are we today? 11 months after this round, we raised another round of 2.5 million euros. We've grown, as I mentioned, to 30 people. We work with 800 venture-backed startups. And only now we're starting to get a little bit of success. And success for us is very simple, is can we actually solve the problem of our customers? The biggest problem our customers have is can we find really great software engineers to come work at our company? And can we solve that better than anyone else can solve it? Today, for any company we work with globally that is a cool, exciting startup, within 3 days, we have 5 to 10 interviews lined up with excellent engineers for them. And we do this because we're an insanely bunch of geeky people who analyze every single open source code project that's ever been created online, over 12 million open source projects, that is about the size of Google in 2007 in terms of data. And we look at what they've worked on, who they've worked with on it, in what programming languages, in what frameworks, and what libraries for those who are more technical here. And we actually figure out who is good for what. And this works incredibly well for us. So only now, after years and years of R&D, we got there. But what you see here is you see professional social network. TYBA at one moment was a social network. Terrible idea, by the way. Don't ever try to build a social network. But it was a social network because our mission was to fix recruitment. And one of the approaches we thought we could do was try to connect people together, use the data, and actually grow the users through these things called viral loops that probably everyone always talks about. And we saw this growing. And we saw that this could be a company worth 10, 15, 20 million in a few years. But we also knew that this was never going to be a company that would be worth $1 billion. And trying to build $1 billion company is an absolutely crazy thing to do. Statistically, the chances are 0 to none. You have to have some, stitches in your head that are wrong. You have to be both naive and arrogant at the same time, and humbled by the fact that it probably won't work out. But for us, the motivation of our team doesn't come from we're trying to change the world, as maybe some people have said here today, or if you watch any pitches on TechCrunch in Silicon Valley, I want to change the world. For us, our motivation comes from we really like working on hard problems that no one has been able to solve yet. And no one has been able to make it so easy that anyone in this room opens up their phone and finds a new job within 3 minutes. Well, actually, many of you in this room have someone out there who would be your perfect boss, who would be the perfect company that you would love, where you would love the job, where they would love you, where they would be happy with you. And it's actually just a question of matching you, of just bringing you two together. So until that happens, we're not successful yet. And if that does actually happen, we have a pretty good shot at being $1 billion company. But because our motivation is trying to work on a really tough problem and trying to solve it that no one else has been trying to solve, our drive keeps on moving us forward. It's not about money. It's not about status or about getting an article in the press or all of these things. It's actually purely because we just really like doing this. And I'm talking about this is because many of you here are probably thinking about starting your own company or starting your own startup. And you need to think really, really carefully about what your personal motivation is, in my opinion. If your personal motivation is to become rich and make money, chances are that doing a tech startup will be the wrong thing to do. Chances are that statistically you are better off building a more traditional company or actually going out and working for an IT firm or consultancy firm. And it's not because you can't become incredibly wealthy if that's part of your goals with a startup, but it's because startups, and everyone always says this, but it's true, are roller coasters. There's ups and downs. And when you're really down, when you think your company's about to go bankrupt in 2 weeks from now, or the technology you've been working on for months and months proves to not work as well in real life as you think it is, or you've built something that's amazing but you can't get users, if your pure motivation is money, it's pretty easy to say, I give up. Because there's always an opportunity around the corner that will make you more money. But if your motivation is something more intrinsic, and intrinsic can be, I want to prove to my dad that I can do this. Intrinsic can be that I'm obsessed with solving this domain problem. Or in our case, intrinsic means we just really like solving tough problems. It's a little bit of an engineering type mindset. Then you keep on going, because all the ups and downs don't actually make a difference, they're just part of the journey. So you're here in Minsk and you're thinking about starting your company, and probably there's some discussions happening here, and I had one in the car on my way here, about, people, do they stay here, do they leave, do you go join other companies elsewhere? I actually think that this is probably a really, really great place to start a company initially. And it might be, and the reason I'm saying this is that what you have in abundance, and we know this because we analyze the actual data, is amazing engineering talent. And at the core of every good technology startup, the engineers are king. In Google, or any big company that's an amazing engineering company, the engineers are the best paid, they're the decision makers, and the business people, the sales people, the marketing people are there to support them. In the really, crazy, big, audacious internet companies. If you're doing e-commerce, or if you're doing something that's been done 10 times over, potentially not. But in the stuff where really that is actually changing the world, technology is where it's key. And it's not about it's cheaper to hire engineers in Minsk versus hiring them in London, which it greatly is, by the way, as you guys all know. But it's about that you already have a community of really great people here who have ideas, who have the ability to execute on them. And that is far less common in most other cities you go to. When I am in London with our clients, or I'm in Copenhagen, every second person I meet is telling me how he has an idea but he can't find an engineer to work on it with. Well, actually, here there's probably a lot of engineers who have really, really great ideas who can come together and build things together. And we are on the internet. Everything is global. And every traction that you want to get, you can get from here as much as you can get it from a San Francisco or from a London. But there is one point that everyone will tell me afterwards if I don't raise it is, yeah, but how do I fund this thing? Right? Like I have no money, and there's no money here in the market. But everybody here has time. Could be the evenings, could be the weekends. And one of the things we've seen as a company that was coming out of Madrid, where there was no investment really happening from foreign investors, but if you come and show what you've done, you're not competing with the other companies here in Minsk, you're competing with the companies in the entirety of continental Europe, East and West, plus Russia. Because that's what you're competing with, because that's what the investors at the playing field are looking at. So I really believe that there's a lot of really great things that will come out of Minsk. And I think it's from the discussions I've been having with some of the people before coming here and also on my car ride here, it's a mental state that you have to get to. Because if you come to any great investor with something that shows promise, traction, some good numbers, there is money out there. So for me, it's this simple. Everyone who you will meet today who's not from Minsk, who's come here, who is an investor or CEO or founder or anyone else, get their email address. Mine's not up here, but it's Eiso@TYBA.com. And the moment you have something you think actually can compete on that essentially global level, can be very early stage. It can be your first 5,000 users, but they're coming back every single day. You email all of these people you've met here today. You say, hey guys, this looks pretty good, does it? And if I would get a pitch deck from anyone here that says, these guys are having insane traction, maybe it's small numbers, or they're doing really cool technology, a really cool team, I'm pretty sure my first response would be to forward it to people who might be interested in investing in here. And so will be it every single other person in this room, not because we're so nice people, I hope to think we are a little bit, and the startup scene generally is, but it makes us look good as well. Because everyone is looking for that hidden diamond. Skype that came out of Estonia, Google that came out of a university. They're all looking for that next great project. So I really believe, maybe naively so, but I think you have to be a little bit naively to try to start a company in Madrid that tries to be worth $1 billion one day, that actually you guys are gonna fucking rock it. So this was actually my talk, and really happy to be here.
Thank you very much, Eiso. And do we have questions? Yes, from Oksana.
Yeah, well, this event is from my business school, so I think it's a good idea to ask, what do you think, what was the influence on the education you got at the business school on the, learning, what did you learn about, business models, lean startup, entrepreneurship? Did it help you at all? Do you see that you have better knowledge to start a startup after this? And the second question is about the absence of startup life in Madrid. Maybe do you think there is a way it helped you actually, because there are so many startups that just doing conferences and visiting meetups and hackathons instead of just doing something? So maybe that was a good idea to do it in Madrid, not having all the temptations of just wasting your time in many ways.
So let me start with the first question. Education, in our case, IE specifically, all three of our founders were from IE. I actually realize on a day-to-day basis that the things I learned at IE that make me better at my job or make us as founders better at being management of the company don't have so much to do even with some of the crazy entrepreneurial stuff that we heard at IE or learned. All the crazy entrepreneurial stuff we heard just made it more possible to do it. And this is something we've seen. I personally came from the background of doing startups before coming to IE. But one of the things I've seen at IE is that because all of a sudden it becomes normal to think about doing a startup, the barrier of entry of doing one for everyone is lower. Because you're no longer that one crazy guy who does something that no one knows anything about. You're amongst a whole peer group of people who are all crazy enough to think the same thing. So this is one point. And the second point is the stuff that helped me the most is things like activity-based accounting. Most boring subject, I thought, well, I took it, but turns out it is really useful on a day-to-day basis. And things like this that actually are operations class. We run operations German military style, and turns out that actually some of the things I learned in my operations classes help us today building up our process diagrams and things like this. And to your second question, absolutely. Is this being filmed? I strongly dislike startup events. It would even be worse. I strongly, strongly dislike startup events because in reality, most cases it's a bunch of wannabe entrepreneurs who go to every single event, every single night, that are 80% of the event, talking with each other and never doing anything. But in them is a 20% of core people who are pretty darn good. They're there because they're trying to learn about the startup scene. They're coming from different backgrounds, or an engineer who wants to find a co-founder that has a business background. So I think they serve a purpose in any ecosystem. I don't think any ecosystem can do without them, because you need that networking ability. But I do think that the ones that I've experienced, and the bigger the hub, the more this is true. The bigger London, it's more true than in Madrid. There is a lot of noise and very few signal. So Madrid for us gave a very good time to just keep our head down and work. Second thing it gave, if I leave the office at 10 p.m. in Madrid, I can go have dinner with friends. Life only starts. And this makes a huge difference compared to the time when I was in San Francisco. I left the office at 9 or 10 p.m. I couldn't do anything anymore. I couldn't see my friends. So Madrid gives a really good work-life balance. So that's for me one of the biggest advantages that it offers.